All right, this video is specifically for my fellow Christian readers and writers. Probably going to be the most controversial topic. Let's talk spicy books. If you are part of the bookish community, spicy books are everywhere. Pretty much every book on BookTok is spicy. You can't go to Barnes and Noble without having a table full of just a pile of spicy romance books. But my question for you is, as Christian readers and writers, should we be engaging with this material? Should we be reading it? And most of all, should we be writing it? I know personally I've had an extremely difficult time finding traditionally published books that don't have some sort of spicy scene in it with explicit descriptions in the adult categories, which has become extremely frustrating. I also don't want to have to thoroughly Google everything before I just want to read the book blurb and pick it up off of that. So for this video, I decided to do some research about what are the top recommended books right now, the top selling, and do they have spice in it? And for this, I specifically looked at the science fiction and fantasy category, not a romance category, just general science fiction and fantasy, because that is my jam. And these were the results. Out of the 13 top sellers on Amazon, only 2 of them did not have spice in them. One of them was a fantasy inspired cookbook, and the other one was a lit RPG directed toward male readers. Every other book on that list has a spicy scene. And when I was looking up to see if they have spicy scenes in them, there was one that said, yeah, this one has a little bit of spice. If you skip these 3 chapters in a row, you'll be good. 3 chapters of one spicy, that's a long spicy scene. That's a lot of the book. Everyone's real big popular on rating the spice scenes. How many little spicy peppers do you get? Is it 1 to 5 or whatever your scale is? But what's universally agreed is that there's going to be a descriptive scene, and that counts as your spice, right? Some say, oh, this is mild, it's just a 1, all the way to, woo, 5. And the question, should we actually engage in that? So first, let's call spicy books for what they are. They are book. And if you think I'm just being staunch or a little legalistic, don't take my word for it. Take the world's word for it. They make popular stickers that say, I read mine like a lady. So I'm not the one calling it that. The world is calling it that. People who love these books are the ones calling it that. And that begs the question, should Christians be reading or writing? So I always like to look at both biblical and secular evidence because, not everyone's going to be convinced on a biblical argument. However, this video is directed towards Christians, so hopefully that would be enough for you. But if it's not, let's talk about some secular evidence. So first, I am going to start with the caveat that these studies were done largely on men and visual photography. So there is going to be that bias because, most studies are done on men. Most people believe that men have a problem versus women. However, we see the target demographic for these spicy books are women, and these are descriptive themes. So while it might not be visual, it might not be visually stimulating, it is more emotional and more in your imagination. So for this study done, and there's been multiple studies that I've heard throughout the years, this was like the most recent that I could find online. So when it comes to increased use of, there is a decrease in the response to a natural stimulus, and as well as an increase in things like depression. Now, one of the big issues, and I've seen this actually happen with other women readers, and this happens to men too, novelty wears off. So you start off with like normal scenarios, humans doing normal human scenarios. And then that uniqueness wears off and it's no longer exciting. And so you start getting into more deviant and stranger things. So I knew one person who started off with normal romance stories, then that wasn't enough, spicy romance stories. So escalated to fantasy romance, spicy stories, and that wasn't enough. So then they go to like monsters, and that wasn't enough. They go to aliens, and so now they're like super into really degenerate, very unnatural lusting for strange flesh kind of scenarios. So there's this escalation that we see in both books or visually where the normal is no longer enough. Or you start with something real light that's, oh my goodness, I'm so scandalized by this little, what's now rated as like a one spice. And then they keep seeking out more and more outrageous and more graphic, more detailed scenes. And soon they're like, oh, I only want super spicy books. There's also a lot of people who don't even want to read a book that doesn't have spice in it, which is which is not healthy. That's like when people don't want to go to somebody's house unless there's alcohol. To me, that's a problem. So, and back to the study, they theorized that perhaps the increase in materials, why we see a decline in the satisfaction in relationships. A normal, healthy relationship is not scratching that itch that materials that they've been consuming do. And so they're not as satisfied in a normal relationship. Of course, even though Book Talk openly admits, or not just Book Talk, but even though spicy readers openly admit what their books are, maybe you're still in denial about it. So let's think about, why do those themes exist in our medias? And I'm focused on books because I'm a writer. But this also kind of goes for your movies and shows too. We honestly shouldn't be watching that stuff either. What's the point of putting those scenes in? Right? What is the writer trying to get out of the reader? What kind of emotions are we trying to elicit? Let's also talk the definition of suggestive material, such as a picture, a video, text, or audio, intended for sexual arousal. So that is the intention in these spicy books. They're trying to get the readers hot and bothered. And this really hit, like, I really understood this at a point when I was looking at book talks, and there was a book talker who was like, this book you'll read with one hand. And it clicked for me that this really was for people, and that I shouldn't have any of that on my shelf. I shouldn't be reading it. But I was guilty of having a few of those kind of romance stories on my shelves, and I just kind of sped past those scenes. But I got convicted and got rid of them. And I find that too many Christians turn a blind eye to heavy content. We're just so flooded by it. It's in our TV shows, it's in our movies. You can't scroll social media without access. It doesn't even matter how your algorithm looks. Once in a while, something comes through and you're going to see it. And so we don't even really think about it with our books. We also, now, don't get me wrong, I love books, but we have almost this weird sacredness when it comes to books, and the whole book burning issue, which I think could be a whole other video, because we've put these books on a pedestal that you can't say bad things about books. You can't say, I shouldn't read it and other Christians shouldn't read it, kind of thing, without it being book banning, or kids can't read it. Like, we got to monitor what our kids are reading. But anyway, this almost sacredness of the books makes us less vigilant about what's in the books that we're reading. Like, we know a lot of times as Christians, we got to watch out for what we're watching on TV, but we have to be just as vigilant with our books. And it sucks when you're reading a book, you've invested money and a lot of time into reading, and then content pops up that you're like, wow, as a Christian, I can't support this content and I shouldn't have this book. And I know, like, that's happened a lot, and it sucks. And like I said, from the beginning, all of the best sellers, and these are writers who write really well, they have interesting stories, but they throw in all these other scenes that we shouldn't, as Christians, be engaging in. So all the best sellers at the moment have spice in them. You go to the Barnes and Noble list too, same thing as on the Amazon list. They all have explicit scenes in them. Does this make being a Christian trying to consume entertainment frustrating? Absolutely. I have been extremely frustrated by entertainment. And I used to go to kid shows too to watch stuff, but there's a lot of inappropriate stuff in kid shows, not on the explicit, I hope, but still. I still want to watch adult oriented shows without the sexual content in it. Adults want more than just that. But this frustration is why we need more Christian conscientious people in entertainment. We need Christians who are writing entertaining stories that aren't corny, that touch on human difficulties, that touch on heavy topics, but in an honorable way. So we need more of you guys out there. Please, writers, Christian writers, get out there. Now, before we get into more of that, I gave you the secular evidence. Let's go some of the biblical evidence. Time to throw some Bible verses at you. Colossians 3:5 says, put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you, sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and covetousness, which is idolatry. Matthew 5:29. If your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and cast it from you. So if you are consuming content that makes you lustful, cast it out. If you are a writer creating content, you need to be mindful if you're making other people sin, if you're setting stumbling blocks in front of other people. 1 Peter 2:11 says, abstain from fleshly lusts, which war against the soul. Deuteronomy 12:2, for you are a holy people to the Lord, and the Lord has chosen you to be a peculiar people. People are going to think we're weird. It's about protecting our mind and what we're consuming and walking out how God has called us to walk out our lives. Good entertainment doesn't need sex scenes. If you need sex scenes to make your story good, your story isn't good. I'm just going to say it. So you might say that is a huge part of the human experience. Yeah, it is. It is a big issue. It's a big, not even an issue, because in the right context, it's a good thing. And you can still address a topic without it being graphic. For example, you can have a fade to black scene. You can have things that are implied. You don't go into the deep description of the act. And that's where we cross into kind of that graphic. It should also be represented in a way that is glorifying God's principles, not against it. Like I said, this video is directed for Christians. And you don't have to cut complete passion off of a page. Now, there's some clean readers who don't even want kissing. I find that to be a bit extreme. I think you can still show that a couple has a healthy relationship without doing the explicit scenes, because you can show them interacting with one another, cuddling, holding hands, being affectionate, without in a way that is meant to elicit a response in the reader. Instead, just give someone the ooey gooeys, be like, oh, I love that they're so in love. That's fine. Go with that. But we don't want to get people hot and bothered while they're reading, because that is lust, and the Bible very strictly talks against it. All right, so let's take a quick second. Let's talk about dark romance. If you're a Christian, absolutely, you should not be engaging in reading or writing a dark romance. I can't even believe that genre has escalated at all. These are taking abusive situations and they're glorifying it. And granted, the readers say, I know the difference between a healthy relationship and not, and I just love it in my fiction. But the problem here is, what are you entertaining? We should not be dwelling on evil and entertaining it in a good light, even if we know we wouldn't engage it in real life. That's just not something as Christians we should be doing. The Bible does tell us to protect our minds and to focus on what's good. And dark romance is not good. At the end of the day, as Christians, we should not be supporting it. We need to show publishers and writers that we are demanding books that don't have that kind of material in it. And as a Christian writer, you can create those kind of books. Create exciting books with swoony romances without the explicit material. I kind of think it would be nice if we could get clean versions of a lot of the popular books where they just kind of cut those scenes out for us, like a PG version of it. What do you think? Now, specifically, let's talk about for writers. As a writer, you have a huge influence on people. A lot of people might not want to acknowledge the fact that our entertainment does influence us. Watch my videos about themes and messages, but it does. As a Christian who is a writer, whether you're writing Christian fiction or for the secular audience, that's kind of a big responsibility. You can be leading someone to sin, and that's kind of a scary thing for a Christian to have. It's a scary thing for a Christian. You do not want to be leading other people to sin. So before you add something into your book, if you get kind of a little discernment, no, don't add it. We shouldn't be adding spicy scenes, because what it is, it's leading other people to lust. It's leading people to sin, and we shouldn't be doing that. It's like a big, big no. Now, what do you think? Do you think spicy books have gone too far? Are too many books filled with spicy scenes? Do you wish that there was less? If you have any really good romance recommendations, especially in the speculative fiction genres that don't have these scenes, feel free to leave those in the comments. We always want to support those kind of books. Like and subscribe, follow along for more content. Here I give general writing advice, and a lot of the times I also give more specific Christian-oriented advice. No matter what you do it as if you're doing it for the Lord. So remember, the books you write, God knows what you wrote. So strive for excellence in all that you do. Thanks, bye.